Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So guys, welcome to another tutorial. We have taken the basics of Java in the last class, and we have taken some classes about arrays, array lists, and how we can use loops. Basically, as I discussed in the last class, we need to complete the basics before we go to object-oriented programming. Therefore, I have created this tutorial. I call this as crash tutorial session, where we want to try as much as possible on the these topics like finding largest number using while loop, finding two largest numbers like this. So finding even number using methods to do that, manipulating a little bit of arrays. So we are going to do all these programs to see and to manipulate whatever we have learned on the basics. So let's go to NetBeans and start the project. So we'll have the same project, and I'm going to create a new project called Java Basics. And I will save this project into notepad file separately, and then I'll share with you later on, because in your case you have to try all of them yourself. That will be the best way to learn these things. So we have here determine the largest of 10 numbers. So if you have 10 numbers, how do you know which number is the largest? One of the ways is you can ask the user to enter the numbers, but let's make it easier. So let's say you have an integer array of list of numbers. If you have a list of numbers like this, you don't have to give the length, because you are giving the values directly. Otherwise you have to give the length. So we have 23, 12, 15, 25, 30, 35 and 40, for example, or 50. So these are numbers, and we can put even a small number at the end to make sure there are 10 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so I will put one more number here, so that will be 45. So if you have a list like this, how are you going to find which number is the biggest number? First of all, we will use a for loop, as you have seen in the example previously. For loop is the best loop to do this kind of work. So I is less than the list dot length, and this is array, so the length function will work. There you have it. So you have to have an initial value, and that is integer maximum value equal to 0, and we will use this value if the maximum value is smaller than the value that we have here in the list index, in that specific value. This means max is smaller, therefore max is equal to the value, because max has to take what is bigger. If it is not big, it will not take it. So for example, if you have 45 inside max, it will skip 23, 12 all the way until it reaches 50. So it will always look for a number that is bigger than it, otherwise it will ignore it. So this is the idea of how you find the biggest number, and then you print out the largest value from 10 values is, plus you put the value here, max. Let's run this program and see the results. You can see here the biggest value is 50. Okay, so this is an example of how you will do this work. Now there is an easy way to do this using methods also. Let's also show that. So this is a basic program you do without any method. So let's convert this into methods. So we want someone else to do the calculation and send to us the max function. So what you do is you create a function here, public static. We are going to get max, and max is integer, so it has to return an integer. Any function will have a return value, and that return value is a number or a double value or string, boolean, something like that. And I am assuming you have done these things in Java 1 as well. So public integer get max or find max, anything you can call it you want. The function names doesn't matter. Find max, what you need an array. So we have to have an integer array, or you can even say array or list. So once you have the list, we will find out the max is equal to 0 initially, and we are going to return max. Okay, and you use this, the whole thing. We will cut this out. We will remove this because we are using the method here, and directly paste this. So instead of list, you will use array. That array you are sending, and then assign it. This is the method we have created. Now you have to call this method from the main program. So you say the largest value is, instead of you finding the method, you are sending the data to the max function and sending this list inside. Okay, So when you set it inside, it's going to calculate and return the max. It's going to return an integer, that is the maximum value. Let's try to run the program. The same. So this is also another way of solving the problem, and I really expect you to know this as well. So this is using methods. So try to run this program yourself and see if you get the same output. Okay, the next question says do the same using while loop. Okay, so if you have a program like this, like this one, this is the one with the max method. How do you do this using while loop? You have for loop here. How do you remove this part and do it using? We will use the body, only the loop we will change. How do you do this using while loop? Okay, so while loop also works the same way as a for loop. The difference is the place where you stop and the place where you put the plus plus. So we have max, and that means while max is while I, so we have integer I equal to 0, while I is less than array dot length, so I plus plus will be here at the end of the loop, I plus plus. So I is equal to 0. I is equal to 0 is at the beginning, I is less than is inside the condition, and I plus plus is at the end. That's why I said for loop is easier, because everything is in one line. Now in while loop you have three things at three different positions, and if you put it in the wrong position, you're going to create a logical error or a problem there. So if max is less than this array, then max equal to array, the same logic, except the loop this time is a while loop. So if you're using a while loop, this is how you do it. Same answer, 50. Okay, so this is using a while loop. So these things will keep them shared. I'll pass to them after you try them. I don't want to give you the files directly. I want you to run them, try to type them into NetBeans yourself or Eclipse into yourself and run it. You have to run through this in order to learn these basics. Then only we can start object-oriented programming, guys. Okay. Do use similar approach and find the two largest values. So if you have one largest value, like here you are finding one largest value, how about the second largest value? How do you find the second largest value? Alright, so this is going to return to us the largest value. Of course, if you want to make sure you return also the second largest value, you need two values to be returned. So we are not going to use functions here. We are going to copy our first program we did that doesn't have any functions. So this program, and we are just going to work here. Max is equal to 0, and second max or second largest, is also equal to 0 initially. So what we do here is, if max is smaller than that value, when assigning max as the new value, before we assign that, we will take second max and put the value of max inside the second max. Because if max is smaller than the value, for example, max is first 0, then 45 is here, 45 is definitely bigger, so max will take 45, and the previous value that is stored in max, which is 0, goes inside second max. And then it goes on when it matches 50, for example, because that is the only value that's bigger than 45. It will put 45 inside second max, and max will take 50. So always we have second max having the second largest value. So it's not a trick, it's actually very simple. So the largest value from 10 value is max. The same thing we will copy paste and we will say the second largest value from 10 value is second max value. So we are going to copy this and we are going to paste it here, and the second largest value will be seen this way. Okay, so it's just a matter of keeping it track. You see, 50 and the 45. So the idea is to practice as much as you can these basic things, so this is another program. So alright, now let's go into the next section here. Determine whether numbers are even or odd. Sometimes you may not know the logic for these things, but what you have to know is how to do the program. Sometimes the logic is a different part. For example, how do you know a number is odd or even? That is mathematics, that's not programming, but how do you integrate it into programming is the skill you are learning here. Okay, so we have a list here, for example, and from this maybe we can use some criteria to find out whether the number is even or odd. First we will use a small number, maybe for example let's say integer value equal to 20. 20 is an even number, we know that. So here in this case we are trying to find out if the number is even or not. So let's try to delete these parts and then we find out if this number, that value modulus 2, that's how you check. You divide the number by 0, and if there is no remainder, modulus operator or this percent operator actually does that. So value divided by 2 remainder. That remainder, if the remainder is 0, there is no remainder, yes, then we can say this value, which means value plus is an even number. Even number. So this is an example way of doing it. So for example, you can say 20 is an even number, and else, of course, you will have different output, and you will say anything that is not an even number is going to be an odd number, right? So is an odd number. I'll just make it capital. Odd number. So for example, 21. 21 is not an even number. 21 is an odd number. You see? So this is a simple program that finds out whether a number is an even number or odd number. And try that. Try to run it and see if you can do the same thing. So the important thing is you look at the program, try it yourself to understand the logic. Okay, the next thing here says adding is even method, meaning you have to modify the program by adding is even method. Is even method receives user entered integer value, returns true or false boolean by checking integer is even or odd. Okay, so we are changing the way the program is done here. So if you have this program here, it is asking you to create another function outside, and that function is public static. Remember, always static comes when you are working in the main program. Public static void, not void, boolean, because you are returning true or false. Sorry, you are returning true or false, whether the number is even or odd. So public static boolean is even this number, and integer you are going to get the user input. In this case, it's not user input; it's the value. So if the value is even, then we will return true. So we will create a boolean variable initially, is even. First we assume that it is not even. Return is even. This is even. This is just a variable. If it is going to return false, if it is not even. Remember. So if the number is divisible by 2, that means if this value modulus 2 is equal 0, then is even is going to be true, meaning it is the only condition where it is true, otherwise it will remain as false. So this works also. So how do you do that? Instead of calculating it, you have to display the output, and you can't use this anymore. So you have to say is even. This is a function call. Call the function and send in the value. Is even. If is even, then you are printing this, else we are printing this. Let's run this program. See, 21 is an odd number. What if it is an even number like 22? Then it says 22 is an even number. That's correct. So we are doing the work by sending the input into this is even method. Okay, the method is true or false. It checks whether the number is even and odd and returns true or false. So try to do the same thing and try to have a similar approach for these kind of programs. So try this program. Okay, so that is also a good program, simple program. Now all of these are absolutely basic stuff that we have done in Java 1. We are just refreshing them so that you are ready for Java 2. Okay, remember that. So all these, if you don't know what's happening there, take your time, pause the video, type this out. I want you to learn this. Without this, we can't learn Java 2. You're going to have a difficult time because all the things that comes up will be more difficult for you. Okay, that is the idea for all these 5 programs. Now the last program is a little bit lengthier. We can do this one. This is about arrays. So have we copied this? Yeah, we have copied this here. This is going to be the program. Okay. Okay. Before we move into the program, I actually wanted to do an array here. What if you have an array of lists and you want to just find out whether the number is even and odd? If it is even, then you will display this. Otherwise, you will display this. So the whole thing here, you can put it inside a for loop. So you say So we are here right now, and let me say for integer I equal to 0, I is less than the list dot length. So every item in the list we have to send it through the function. That's the key here. Okay, so instead of is even value, you say is even list I. So you are sending the value one by one. Send this, send this, send this, and then it goes in, and then if it is even, then it will print like this. It will print like this. If it is odd, simple. So you are just sending more than one value. You are sending actually a list one by one into the is even function. So also this is one method you should understand and you should know and you should practice it. Run it. You see, 45 is an odd number, 23 is an odd number, 12 is an even number. Like that it goes on, because you know it has the logic. Okay, this is also a good program. So the same program with arrays. Okay, try that. Okay, let's do the array part here. Do all array items here. Print all the values inside this array with their index numbers. Okay, just like this one here. We have an array here. How do we display them with index numbers? So again, index numbers, remember, starts always with 0. So you need a for loop again. Why? Because it's a loop. I is less than list dot length I plus plus, and then you have the values to be printed. So how do you print it? You say what is the index? The index value is I directly, and then plus comma the actual value. So you have to print it with the index number. The actual value is plus list I. Simple. So you have a for loop. You are showing what is the value, what's the index value, and what is the item. Alright, see, index 0 is 45. This is where you have to remember. Some students will think index 1 is 45. It's index 0. Arrays start with index 0 because they are stored in the memory location, and this is how the best way to represent them, instead of representing them using 1, 2, 3. So the item is initially at 0, and the last item is the 9th value, which actually is the 10th value from a mathematical calculation. You can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that up to 10. So that is the idea of how you do it. First, the first question. Okay, change the fourth item from 34. Okay, in this case it has given 34.2. Let's not keep here. Change the fourth item to 35. This is an integer, so we'll keep it like this, to 35. Fourth item. Now what is fourth item? Okay, remember when it says fourth item, it means list 3. Fourth item is, you see, 1, 2, 3, fourth item. That fourth item is 0, 1, 2, 3. The index number is actually 3. So this one you have to change it to 35. That's the idea of what it is saying, because it wants to check whether you remember that fourth item is list 3, not list 4. So those kind of things you must remember about arrays. Although we have stopped using arrays and we are using array list, this logic you must be very, very familiar with, because you are coming from Java 1 class and you have done these things. Okay, count how many numbers in the list I, about 20. Alright, so let's create a method to do this. So we have this number, this is the index number, and here we will check if it is greater than 20, then we will print greater than 20. You know, if it is greater, otherwise we will not print anything. So here we will do a print and not a print line, because we want to print another item here. If the item is greater than 20, you see here it says here count how many numbers. You don't have to print them, you just have to count them, but we will still print them and also count. Integer count equal to 0, and if this value, without a method first, if this value, that is list I, is greater than 20, then we are going to say count plus plus. So increment the counter every time you hit a number that is greater than 20, because it says here whether the number is greater than 20 or not. Well, that is the logic. So we can also actually do something else here, just like the additional part we said. We can actually print saying system.out.print index value greater than 20, comma greater than 20. It's a way of just complementing the actual logic of function. Else, remember, there is something you have to remember. If it is not greater than 20, you still have to print a new line. Otherwise, the previous line is printing print and not a print line. So an empty print line is needed in order to have a new line. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll disable this part first. You see here, this is what I'm talking about. If the number is greater than 20, it works. If it is not greater than 20, it's trying to print everything in one line. That is because even if it is not greater than 20, we need to print a print line. Okay. The other way to do this is for everything you just put a print here, and whether the item is odd or even, or whether the number is greater or not, anyhow you print a new line. This is less confusing and easier. Okay, so you can follow this method. Maybe it's better. You can see here now. So if the number is greater than 20, it displays this part. But still, something else is missing, because here you have to say. Now maybe we can say we have changed the fourth item. Now the item, because the item has another number that is greater than 20, we have to do this calculation after we change this, right? Because then this value is the third item, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, which is greater than 20. Okay, so we have to change it, then only we can do the for loop. Okay, so how many numbers are greater than 20? Number of values greater than 20 is, instead of that we can say is there are and plus there are count values that are greater than 20. Just like this, simple. Greater than 20. How many values? Count values. See, there are 8 values that are greater than 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 values greater than 20. That is the idea of how you manipulate these things. Now again, there is one more item that says here, show this in percentage. Simple stuff again. So how do you do percentages? Percentages is simple. You just say that will be, and you put a plus here. Sorry, that will be plus percent space percent. So what is percent? We just put a bracket here because we are doing a calculation here. Remember, if you are doing a calculation, put a bracket. I keep hitting on my mic. You have to do a calculation, otherwise you will try to append it. So what is the correct calculation? Count divided by list dot length. So how many values are there? There are 10 values. How many values are greater than 8? Greater than 10, so greater than 20, 8 values. So actual value, count value divided by total multiplied by 100. Now you have to multiply it after you divide. So multiplied by 100. Okay, so this is going to give us 18%. Let's try to see. You see? Oh, 0%. Oh, because we are doing the calculation of count, which is integer count, so we have to actually convert the whole thing into double before we divide it. I think so. Yeah, see, 80%. Because we are trying to divide something by another one, the answer should be a double value, and we are dividing two integers, which causes some issues. So we have to cast. This is called casting. We convert it into double and then multiply by 100. That's 80%. 8 is 80%. 8 out of 10 is 80%, right? Okay, simple. So I hope you are getting these things. A little bit of simple stuff for some of you. For some of you, it may be difficult. I don't know. Please try them. Please try the answers yourself, the questions yourself. That's the best way for you to learn this. Show this in percentage. That one is done. The last one here says create a method to add 3 to all the items on the list and return it as an array. Oh, so this is a method. So let's try to create a function here. Public static, and look what we have to return. We have to return an array. So it has to return an array of integers. Add 3 to add 3 to each one of them and return the array. So you have an initial array here, and then that array is going to be equal to integer list of array. The list is going to be equal to the array, and once you have this, you are going to return the list. So this is how you simply do it. Now you do the for loop. So in the for loop, I is going to start from 0. I is going to run until array dot length. Whatever length array has, I plus plus, and you are going to do this by incrementing array I equal, or you can say plus equal 3. Right? This is a shorthand form. Array I equal to array I plus 3. You are just adding 3 to every item. So call the method here and send it. Is going to return an array. So we are going to send the array list is equal to this one and send the list it. So it's going to return the list with 3 items added to every item. Let's check that. That's out. Sorry, we need a for loop again, guys. Remember, for integer I equal to 0, I is less than list dot length, of course, I plus plus, and then you're going to have this list I s out, not spot s out. What do you have to print? The list item, list I. Okay, let's see. Initially you can see 45, 23, so it should be 48, 26, 15, like that. That is, see, 48, 26, 15, because it has added 3 items to it. So you are calling a function, and that function is outside. It adds 3 to every item in the array and returns an array. So sometimes the method will return one number, sometimes the method will return a string, a double. It can even return an array, just like this. And later on you are going to see this a lot, because you have to return array lists in other programs that we do. Okay guys, so that is also a good program, so I'm going to put it here as a separate item. Later, after you try all of them, I'm going to give these programs to you, but I don't want to share it beforehand. So that's it for this class. Please try all of these examples, run through the video, pause the video wherever necessary, and finish it. And after you are done, then we can go ahead and go for object-oriented programming, which is something we really need to rush into. Okay, thank you very much.